am Alicia Pedroletti, and I'm here with Andrea from Ilaria, as Stephanie just said, and finally both in Berlin being apart for almost 1 year.
Yeah. Hi everyone, we are happy to be here and finally present you Form, the outcome of longer research and shared effort emerged from the HerMaP project.
So I will start maybe in saying something about the project. What you will see is backstage images of the process that we use for the project. So U4, our project, is a living archive of a territory, no longer defined by the direct experience of the traveler, but imagined through a different travel experience. It proposes a different approach to the meaning of geography, and it focuses on archiving as an art practice. What you can see now on the HerMaP website and here in the slides are 4 video loops as examples of the narrative the database software creates by combining images and sounds collected throughout the residency. There is no additional information in the database because we decided to take away everything that makes the archive an archive and to work with absence as a tool. In the beginning, I wanted to work with photography and videos, visiting on-site archives, engaging with local communities and meeting people. But after the pandemic hit, I had to address the impossibility of traveling like everyone else in the project. So I wondered how could I preserve for my future self the surprise that a territory would give me the first time I visited, how to protect this chance of beauty. And that's when I decided to not work with any photographers or video makers or remote live cams, as some of the images you're looking at. I wanted to be free in choosing what to see and when to see it. So I imagined what I will miss the most from the environment I could not experience. And I focus on sounds and smells, for example, and I choose to work with soundscapes. You can also read in the slides some of the questions that emerged from my first thought. And I also like to add that I thought immediately how to create an artwork that is also an archive of its own creative process and that can change in time. And therefore the opera, if the opera can be an archive itself. Andrea and I met in Berlin through a friend, and so when the project shifted to digital, I asked him to collaborate with me to rethinking the travel and the concept of the living archive, and especially how to deal with my own art practice remotely.
So we began our collaboration by finding a common vision that helped us in shaping the aesthetic, but also the process of the project, as we come from 2 different fields of work. I am a multimedia artist and Alicia is a fieldwork and research-based artist. The first step has been to share an online open call via Instagram and WhatsApp with some help from the New Media Society and several collaborators in Iran and abroad. We basically asked strangers to send us pictures of objects and sometimes sounds that will represent themselves, without giving them any further instruction, but engaging in the personal conversation with all of them.
So last summer, around 50 strangers sent us hundreds of photographs, sometimes with personal meaning and sometimes not. And at the same time, our collaborators on site sent us sounds from remote places without any urban or human traces to use for the project as well. I can say, you can see some of the chats and here we are. And I can say that being constantly in touch for 5 months, sharing comments, ideas, personal stories, both about the time we are living in, the pandemic situation, but also about our life experiences. At the end, these strangers were not strangers anymore. Going back to the project, as we consider sound as a landscape one cannot see and a photo of an object, an artifact that one cannot touch, the second step was combining both in order to create a visual landscape, part of a living archive. So how does UFORM work? As I said, it's a database from the distance from the classical constraints of an archive, such as nomenclature and coordinates. And for us, is a future instrument of dissemination and preservation of identities. Memorabilia carrying and preserving their singularity in the digital realm, like those that are recovered during archaeological excavation.
So the database is meant to be open source. So we are currently working on an idea on a second open call, most probably here in Berlin, and a new version of the software where people would be able to directly upload their own images on the u-form.earth. We will then continue to collect sounds while working with other sound artists located in different geographical areas. Yeah.
So yeah, to end, the living archive for us is a perpetual and evolving place for a new and possible geography. And UFORM started with HerMaP, but it was immediately conceived as an ongoing process towards multiple territories beyond borders. As for us in the digital format, we really can reimagine the idea of community, and that's what we try to do. And we would like to thank especially our collaborators and
thank you, you all
and everyone. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you both very much. You said that these sound and visual findings were collected by people, by the artists from a distance and purposely rearranged, and they are actions of an archaeology for the future. Could you elaborate on that idea, the archaeology for the future, like for whom first, and second, the collaborators, could you speak a little bit more about their role in your project?
Okay, sure. So the idea of the archaeology for the future and in the future is to not having specific objects into a specific place, but more trying to connect through objects that are, in our case, as you can see, not really precisely pictured like in a photograph, but more elaborated and becoming constantly a different object. So we questioned the object itself. So automatically it was for us important to try to understand that with those kind of fluid object that we created, combining the picture within the sounds, also the meaning of archaeology as we know it today, it's different, and it's not in a specific place, but it's into a database that it's everywhere possibly, and that can host many different kind of objects, but not specifically any kind of object, because they are constantly shaping themselves and becoming one into the other one. So that was one of the first thought we had. And actually, it was really helped by the conversation we had with all the collaborators, because at the beginning, some of them wanted to show us their heritage through their object, but then we end up talking each other through chats about the meaning of object itself, and what was for them to show us, and to me and to Andrea, the more the conversation was engaging, the more they wanted to somehow show not specifically a culture object, but their favorite object, to somehow share their personalities and their identities with us, and picking up objects that they were carrying with them, no matter what the object comes from, but it's just because they have a personal and emotional attachment to it.
Yeah, the connection.
A connection. So sounds for us was a way to fill this emotional gap between me, Andrea, the territory, but also between them and us, without using words or specific coordinates or nomenclature that will give us again like a political sense of territory.